The first time they realized I understood every cruel word was the moment the entire room went silent. But by then, it was too late. I had already heard everything. Every insult, every whispered judgment, every little knife slipped between my ribs under the cover of a language they thought was safe from me. And that night, in the middle of my mother-in-law's birthday dinner, I decided I wasn't going to take it anymore. I'm Canadian, born and raised in the Western provinces. My husband, Peter, is German. For 3 years, we've been married, building our life together, raising our first child, and dreaming of a future. For most of that time, we lived in Canada, but life had become heavier. Prices were climbing. Our mortgage felt like an anchor, and Peter's family kept telling us that moving back to Germany would be the smarter choice. Eventually, we agreed. We landed in Hanover, Peter's hometown, with the optimism of a couple starting a fresh chapter. We found a beautiful house. We told ourselves this would be a new beginning. The very next day, we went to see Peter's family. It was only the second time I'd met them, the first being at our wedding. They greeted us warmly, smiled, and fussed over our son. We sat down for dinner, made small talk, and I went home thinking, maybe this move really could work. Over the next few months, we visited often, but little by little, something in the air began to change. I started to notice the way conversation shifted when I walked into the room. I started to catch the sidelong glances, the quick, sharp words spoken in German. They thought I couldn't understand. They thought I was just smiling politely while they commented on my hair, my makeup, my clothes. They criticized the way I looked pregnant, the way my belly sat, the weight I'd gained, all of it dissected in a language they assumed I didn't speak. But here's the truth. I'd known German almost my whole life, and every time they thought they were hiding behind their words, I understood. Every word, every tone, every intention. Eventually, I told Peter what was happening. I told him I was tired of feeling like every choice I made was up for discussion. He promised he would talk to them. And for a while, it worked. For 3 whole months, there were no snide remarks, no undercurrents of mockery. Then our second child was born, a perfect little girl we named Lilith. It's a name that runs through generations of women in my family. My middle name, my mother's, my grandmother's, even my great-grandmother's. To us, it's a piece of history. To Peter's family, it was something else entirely. They said it meant ghost, or of the night. They didn't like the sound. They didn't like the meaning. And they made their disappointment clear. I avoided them for weeks after that. The last thing I needed in the fog of postpartum recovery was to hear them dissect the name I had chosen for my daughter. But eventually, there was my mother-in-law's birthday. Peter wanted us to go, and I, reluctantly, agreed. From the moment we arrived, the tension wrapped around me like smoke. Everyone wanted to hold Lilith. My mother-in-law's smile faltered when people fussed over the baby instead of her. I was still deep in postpartum depression. I wasn't ready for strangers' arms around my newborn. I let them look, but not hold. It didn't take long for the whispers to start. I sat at the table, focusing on my plate, when I heard my sister-in-law's voice, low but sharp, speaking to my mother-in-law in German. She was complaining about not being allowed to hold my baby. And then she said it, a fat, ugly hockey addict. It was so absurd, so specific, and yet so venomous that something inside me snapped. I turned to them, my voice steady. my German fluent. I told them I had heard every word they had ever said about me, every insult, every little cruelty they thought was safe. And I told them this was the last straw. I made it clear. I had known German all along. The reaction was instant. Chairs scraped back. Voices rose. Suddenly, I was the villain. Not because of what I'd said, but because I hadn't told them sooner. They accused me of deception, of eavesdropping, as if the real crime wasn't their months of ridicule, but the fact that I finally answered back. The room became a storm of voices, all of it in German now, but no longer hidden. I picked up Lilith. I told Peter we were leaving, and without another word, we walked out. We haven't spoken to them since, and now I'm left here, wondering, was I wrong? Was I the asshole for not telling them I spoke their language? Because here's the thing, I didn't hide it to be manipulative. I hid it because I wanted to avoid this exact kind of explosion. I didn't want them to feel like they couldn't talk to me. I didn't want the awkwardness of forcing them into English. I thought, maybe, just maybe, they'd grow to like me. Instead, they used that assumption as a shield, a way to say the things they'd never dare say to my face. And when the shield fell, they blamed me. I think about that dinner often, about the way their eyes changed when I spoke to them in German, about the fact that, in their minds, the problem wasn't that they'd been cruel. It was that I'd been listening. So, am I the asshole? Here's what I keep coming back to. In any healthy family, speaking up about hurt should bring healing, not punishment. But when someone is determined to believe they're right, your pain becomes irrelevant. They'll twist the story until you're the problem. In this case, they didn't just cross the line once. They built their own private language to step over it again and again, thinking you wouldn't notice. The fact that you did, and the fact that you stood up for yourself, doesn't make you wrong. It makes you strong. But here's the harder truth. Strength doesn't guarantee reconciliation. Sometimes standing up for yourself means closing a door that won't open again. And maybe that's okay. Because in the end, the measure of a family isn't how they act when everything is easy. It's how they behave when you're vulnerable, when you're trusting them with your heart, your child, your postpartum exhaustion. This family failed that test. So I'll leave you with this question. If someone only treats you with respect when they think you're not listening, do they deserve to be in your life when they know you can hear them? What do you think? Is she the asshole? Or was this the only way to finally tell the truth?